good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you are joining us today. Thank you so much for being with us. We are excited to share the anticipated, long-awaited 9.2 release. We've got great presentations for you guys today, lots of great demos, lots of great information. I hope that you guys enjoy what Angie and Alex are going to be sharing with you today. Quick few housekeeping rules. Just as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. So we will send a copy of the recording to you after the meeting's over. You will also be able to find the recording on the IBI.com website as well as our YouTube channel. Any presentations that you see today, I will also send a copy to you as well. And then if you have any Q&A questions for our panelists and our presenters, I cannot talk this morning, excuse me, for our presenters, please submit those through the Q&A. Angie and Alex will be answering those questions as we go along. We'll answer a lot of them out loud, and then they can also address any individual questions for you guys as well. So with that, we will go ahead and kick it off. I have a couple of things to share with you guys. Per usual, our little customer resource update. So let this load. Here we go. So as I mentioned, we have Angie and Alex with us today to talk to you about the 9.2 or WebFOCUS 9.2 new features and some demos to show you guys today. We had a great session yesterday with a lot of our North America customers. And so I see there's actually some North America customers on today, as well as our friends over in the EMEA area. So again, thank you all for joining us. Just as a reminder, IBI.com is back. So this is where we would love to send all of you guys. You don't have to go out to tibco.com anymore to find all things IBI. We have our own domain. We have our own website back. So please, use the IBI.com when you're looking for all of your IBI products and solutions. We have the data sheets and information out there now on this website. If you're looking for customer stories, we have those uploaded out here. Under the resource section, that is where you will find all of the on-demand user groups, Focus Fridays, and other webinars that we have conducted. So all of those recordings are there under the resource section. We will no longer be loading these on tibco.com, so they are on IBI.com. Any upcoming events, user groups, Focus Fridays, webinars, in-person events, they will all be under the events section, and you can find all of those there at the top bar once you get onto the homepage of the website. You can also still access support. You will find that at the bottom of the page. There is a link to support access. It still will take you back to a Tibco branded support page, but you can still put in your tickets and still find all of the IBI information that you're looking for, as well as put in your ticket for IBI support. We are working on getting that, rebranded, moved over, but that one's just taking a little bit longer, but you can still access support. And then what's still coming? What's still coming? We are constantly working on the website. We're updating it, adding new material and new stuff. So additional product documentation will be, added to the website over the weeks and months as we develop it. We have heard you guys very loud and very clear about education and training, how-to videos, getting started videos depending on where your expertise level is using WebFOCUS and other solutions. So we are working diligently with our teams to get some of those type of videos created and get that information out there available to you guys with easy access. And then also the community. We are working to get the community linked over to the website so you guys can have easy access to the customer community. As I mentioned, under the events page, you can find, again, all the upcoming webinars and user groups. So we're about to finish up April as we are just a few days left. This is the last virtual user group for the month. We have the Focus Friday scheduled out till the summer, and then within start of next week, you will see all of the May events under the user group section. So be sure to check back and register when you see an event that interests you. And then we have the community. As many of you know, we are on the TIBCO community. We have our own portal here. This will be the case for the foreseeable future. Our team is working to go out there, and we are, rebranding everything in the WebFOCUS portal so that it is all reflecting IBI. We are working to find focal point discussions, to try to bring those over. I know you guys have talked about, you're curious where those went, how do you still access them, things like that. So we are trying to make improvements to this community while we are on it. And that way it makes it easier navigation for you guys, easier to find things for you guys. So if you're not on community, go out there, join it, and then kind of join us on this journey to get all of this great access and information available to you guys. Within the community, we do have 2 groups that are IBI specific groups. We have an IBI user group. We'd love to have you join that. You can register. Again, that's where I'll post upcoming events and user groups to remind you to register. You can participate in discussions with your fellow user group members. We'll do some surveys out there, and it's just another way to interact with us as well as the other user group community members. And then just recently, we started one for the Walters and Mark under the Focus Friday. So if you guys are interested in joining that group, you can get all the ins and nos with the Focus Fridays. They post their recording there as well as their presentations after their meetings. So join the 2 groups, interact with us. We'd love to have you. And then for those of you who are on social, we'd love for you to connect with us. We have our 3 social media channels. Many of you guys already follow us on LinkedIn, and we really appreciate that. We've got a strong LinkedIn presence. If you do follow us, you know that we are constantly posting on LinkedIn and Twitter. So if you're not part of this, I encourage you to go out there and follow us. And then we do have a new YouTube channel. So for those of you who might have followed our YouTube channel in the old IBI days, that channel is no longer active. We do have a new YouTube channel. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this YouTube channel, we are posting the recordings to these user groups and webinars. This will also be where we will post some of the training videos along with the website, but we will have them out on the YouTube channel as well. So when I send out this presentation, all of these icons are linkable, so you can just click them and it'll take you to these social media platforms, and you can subscribe and follow us. And then last but not least, since we are talking about 9.2 today, we are encouraging all of you guys to get up to date with WebFOCUS 9. We are offering the technology refresh program. It is the fast and pain-free way to upgrade to WebFOCUS 9. Dan Ortolani, as many of you know, and his team are heading up this project and this initiative. If you guys are interested in what this is, how it looks for your organization, please mark that on your evaluation form at the end so we can get this over to Dan's team and they can reach out to you and begin this conversation. You can also check it out on ibi.com under the WebFOCUS Technology Refresh Program. But essentially, it's a 3-stage process, as I mentioned, for just a fast, pain-free way to getting you to upgrade to the latest and greatest of WebFOCUS. So again, if you are interested in this program or want to know more about it, please just mark that on your evaluation form. And at the end of the meeting, I will put a link in the chat for the evaluation link. If you could please take a moment to fill that out for us. Your feedback is greatly appreciated for these user groups. It takes just a few minutes of your time. I will also send the link out in a follow-up email if you do have to drop or leave us early. So with that, that is all I had for you guys. I'm going to turn it over to Angie, and we're going to dive into some 9.2.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Let me get my screen set up here so I can make sure I'm seeing all the right windows. All right. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining, and we're here to talk about WebFOCUS 9.2. This is a really exciting release for us. This is our third 9 release, release 9 with features. And so we'll get right into it. Let's get to the agenda. So overall today, I'll do a little bit of an introduction, some information about the IBI brand that is coming back. And then after we talk about that a little bit, we will review the overall product direction and theme, some of those driving factors that led to the decisions that created these features. And then a quick summary of like a highlight reel of what's in 9.2, but then beyond that, Alex and I will be going into more detail of each of those features as well. I will be covering the Cloud Hub and DSML aspects and do a short demo there, and then I will hand off to Alex for the second half of this to talk about Designer, since a lot of our features are in that Designer area. All right, so let's kick off. You already heard Shay talking about the IBI brand coming back in our IBI website. There's, I guess, no surprise there that we are going back to the Information Builder's name and the IBI logo. And IBI is going to be a business unit of Cloud Software Group. So our parent company is Cloud Software Group. That was the result of the merger that happened late last year. And you can think of that similar to like a Meta or Alphabet sort of parent company that has several business units underneath of it. And IBI is one dedicated business unit in that structure. So overall with IBI, that's going to encompass all of the things that you've known as IBI over the years, all of WebFOCUS, the Focus for Mainframe, IOA, Omni, all the different pieces that you're familiar with over the years. So what does that IBI product portfolio cover? So there is a big, very wide range of the types of functionalities that we offer across the entire IBI platform. So data and ETL integration with the Data Migrator product, also in IOA and Omni, we have the Master Data Management or MDM, being able to have multiple domains and reference data there. Application integration, so APIs and data mesh, data quality as well. We have IBI data quality is one of the products in our portfolio, and that's going to help with like verification of addresses and overall just cleansing and validating data. And then of course the reporting and analytics, and that's what we're here to talk about the most today, is the WebFOCUS side. So the WebFOCUS hub is your central point coming into WebFOCUS, and then from there you have all the different capabilities there. The reporting and analysis available in Designer, more in-depth AI-led analysis with our DSML offerings, the scheduling and distribution with Reportcaster, and how you can publish all those things into portals as well. And then on top of all of that, I mentioned the AI and machine learning a little bit already as part of WebFOCUS, but we are looking into that more broadly across the entire IBI platform. So overall, we are keeping up with the trends of AI machine learning, or DSML, you may hear it as, being able to really enhance the overall experience in WebFOCUS and in the rest of the IBI portfolio to enable to enable like data discovery and data analysis very quickly, very easily, and also be able to do predictive analysis as well. And last but certainly not least is our cloud native capabilities. So with WebFOCUS, we have the container edition of WebFOCUS, and we also have our managed cloud service available. And both of those can really be combined together, where the managed cloud service, you could have all of your WebFOCUS environment in our managed cloud, or you can also do a hybrid scenario where the WebFOCUS platform itself is in the cloud, but maybe your data is still on-prem. So either way, we support all of it. And then as usual, we still have our subject matter experts and support underneath of Dan Ortolani, who you're probably all familiar with. Same level of support as we've always had. All right, so the WebFOCUS product themes and directions. So we categorize this into 4 big categories. And like I said, these are kind of our driving decision makers for how we approach our features, what are our guidelines for creating the various features in WebFOCUS. So first here is cloud and containerization. So the overall market with software is moving into the cloud and being cloud ready. And we're keeping up with that trend and offering, like I said, the managed cloud, but also the WebFOCUS Container Edition, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a little bit, but it really offers automatic scaling capabilities and easy configuration between multiple environments to really handle on demand any sort of resource demand or traffic that you may be getting to your WebFOCUS environment. Second, there is our unified authoring tool. So this is primarily Designer that we're talking about here, but it really is encompassing all of our authoring tools. We have Info Assistant App Studio as well. Most of you have probably worked with them in the past. And we are working to bring all of that functionality into one place, into Designer, so that there is no question of which tool am I supposed to use to do which functionality. Info Assistant App Studio aren't going anywhere. They're still part of release 9.2. We're not getting rid of them at all. And really just our focus is enhancing Designer enough to a point that no one needs to use them anymore. And once we get to that point, we'll think about maybe retiring them, but since we still have functionality to add into Designer, it's not even on our plans yet. So no worries there. Info Assistant App Studio will still stick around. You can still continue to use those even in release 9.2. So in the integrated data science, we've been doing a lot of work over the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months, bringing data science and AI and machine learning into WebFOCUS. So we released the natural language queries late last year, where you can use natural language to ask questions against the data. And so these are things like, show me the top 10 sales in a certain region. Or, so in this scenario, you don't need to know your data exactly. You don't need to know the exact column names. You don't even have to know how to write a where test or a SQL query to get this. And so that's really enhancing, or really expanding rather, the types of users who can see this data and look at this data and get the answers to the questions that they have about that. Also in the DSML area, in release 9.2, we added a feature called explainability, and this is tied to our machine learning models and machine learning functions. And what this really does is once one of those machine learning functions has generated a result, maybe in binary classification, it's generated a yes or no answer based on the question being asked. The explainability piece gives you more insight as to why that answer was generated. What were the factors that contributed to that? And then even beyond that is, if I change one of those factors, how does that change my result as well? And then sort of our broad bucket to capture everything else is the tailored usability area here. And this is really across all of WebFOCUS. We put a really big emphasis on the overall user experience and making sure that our tools are intuitive to use, that they're simple to use, that you're not clicking around across 5 or 6 different menus to find the feature or the setting that you really want to use. So in that area, we are currently working on a updated UI for Reportcaster, not in 9.2 yet, it's still in progress, but it's something that I'm very excited for our future. And then also in release 9.2, we surfaced and are enabling white labeling through a GUI UI. And so I'll show that in a little bit as part of the WebFOCUS Hub. And yeah, it's a much simpler and a much more intuitive way of customizing and really making the WebFOCUS environment appropriate for you and your company. Okay, I see a couple questions coming in. I think I'm going to address them over the next few slides, so I will get to those shortly. All right, so let's talk about 9.2 specifically then. So I talked about those 4 main themes, and here's a list of the actual features that those translate to. I've talked about some of them already. The Cloud Container Edition of WebFOCUS has configurable auto scaling with it. So there was a question that came in, do we already allow for auto scaling, or is it on the roadmap? So with the container edition itself, the container edition will auto scale, and it's configurable as well, where I can choose of when my resources maybe get to 80% capacity, now I want to spin up an extra environment and have that available to handle the extra resources that are coming in. And so it'll scale up, and then it'll also scale down as well. Once those resources have diminished and I don't need those extra environments or extra instances anymore, it'll actually remove some of those instances as well and go back down to only what you need at the time. So then in the unified authoring tool in Designer, I won't cover this too much because Alex is going to go into more details, but we added complex filter expressions that allow you to really create or combine different expressions with and or statements to create some more complex scenarios. We also added the CSV and tab delimited unformatted output formats. CSV was something that was requested frequently by our customer base. So we made that one a priority and added that to Designer. And then in multi-layer maps, some bending and filter effects that Alex will go over in more detail. And then last, the custom JavaScript validation, and really this is a loaded line item here because there's been several enhancements related to JavaScript in Designer. The validation definitely in the custom JS area of Designer, but also with interactions, you can now have the event or the action of an interaction execute JavaScript as well, which can enable some extra functionality at runtime, such as like form validation and other things. So then in the integrated data science, I already talked about explainability a little bit. And then also for natural language queries, we improved some of the time understanding there. And I'll go into that a little bit later. And then last in that sort of broad bucket of tailored usability or better user experience, we added the white labeling for sure. But in addition to that, we also did a unified Git integration where we previously had both Git integration, both on the workspaces area, that client side area, and on the application directories area, the data side or the reporting server side. Now it's one combined configuration to handle both of those. And then the last bullet point on there is overlaps a lot with Designer, but we did put it in the hub area just because some of our users come in and they only see portals and that's all that they have access to, or the portals that someone else has built for them. And so in those Designer portals, we added a feature for adding visualizations and reports directly into the portal navigation, no longer needing to put them onto a page first. All right. So the cloud and containerization, I've already talked about this a lot. Just to highlight a couple of things that I missed earlier, the WebFOCUS Container Edition packages all WebFOCUS components into a container image. And then based on your scaling that you have, let me actually go to the next slide where it talks about that dynamic scaling. Based on what you've defined for your dynamic scaling, those images can grow or shrink depending on the usage. So it can respond to changing demands on the environment, and you can configure those as well. So it's really up to you to decide when that auto scaling will happen. Over in the WebFOCUS Hub, I'll start with white labeling. So this is a screenshot of what that white labeling UI looks like in the hub, and I am actually going to do a demo of this in a little bit as well, so you'll be able to see it live and in action. So in the white labeling, we added the ability to customize a couple of things throughout WebFOCUS environment. The biggest change are the colors. So overall, we narrowed down to, I forget the exact number, but I want to say it's maybe around like 15 or 20 color variables. And these variables are used across all of WebFOCUS, where when you change the variable in one place in this white labeling section, you'll update that particular color across the whole environment. So in addition to the colors, we also added the ability to change logos of different areas of the product. So that's the hub, the WebFOCUS homepage, the reporting server UIs that open up from the hub, such as the data flow UI, and also Designer. So in Designer itself, you can change the logo. Related to that, other than just the logo, you can also change the browser tab title, what actually displays in your browser tab when you're loading each of those areas. And then last is the favicon itself. So by default, we have our IBI logo for the favicon in WebFOCUS, but if you're customizing it to your company, you may want to put your own company's logo there. So when you update that favicon, it will update across all those areas as well. And then with white labeling, we wanted to make it easy to work with broader teams that have a say in the branding and the design of company assets. So the color palette is a downloadable template as well. You can change it in the UI directly, but you can also download it. And how this helps, there's a couple of really useful scenarios for this, but one of them is I can download that template, send it off to maybe my corporate marketing team or my corporate design team, corporate branding team, have them go in and update all the values with the corporate defined styling and colors and everything. They send that back to me. All I have to do is upload into the environment, and all those colors will update based on what has been provided in that template. Being able to download and upload that color template is also really useful whenever I'm promoting between environments as well, where maybe I've set up the white labeling in a dev environment first, I want to move it to QA next. So I download my template from the dev environment, upload it to QA. Now all of my same changes are in the QA environment as well. So on top of all of that, we did separate the sort of trial area of playing around with white labeling, seeing all the changes for myself versus publishing it to everybody else in the environment. So as I'm going through making changes, whether that's the logos or the colors, any piece of it, I'm only going to see it for myself until I actually click that publish button that's up in the corner. So I'll go through that a little bit in the demo as well. So then also in the hub, we added the unified Git integration. So like I said, this is one configuration now that will encompass both of the content side, the workspaces area, and the data side, the application directories area. Also, because it's one configuration, that means doing a commit or other common Git commands will take effect across both of those areas at the same time. You do have an option where you can still choose and select. You don't have to do both areas, but you now have that option. It makes it a little bit simpler of a process. And here you have all the usual Git functionalities, like viewing the commit history, being able to commit and push. But you can also, with the history, you can also choose a particular commit and roll back to that one as well. And then you can also view and switch between multiple branches. So if you have maybe a master branch and a dev1 branch, or if you're creating a new branch because you're working on something new, you're able to view and switch between those. So last in the hub, this one's, it feels like a little bit of an add-on, but it is a pretty big feature. In the global search area, we introduced the global search in one of the earlier 9 releases. So in the global search area, folders and workspaces now both show up in the result set that comes back. And they're both categorized under folders. So even though like the second image there, the retail samples is a workspace, if you do a search for a folder type, it will return as well. All right, so let's move over to the DSML area. So explainability is the biggest feature that we added in this DSML area in release 9.2. And so you see a little bit of a screenshot here showing the explanation for a predicted value for an attrition flag. Is there going to be attrition based on certain factors here? And so it's picked out and said that like total trans count, total trans amount, and total revolving balance are the factors that determined whether or not there would be attrition on this data set. So the explainability, like I said, picks out why the decision is being made. What were the factors in this decision from the model that was run? So this applies to binary classification and regression models. And with the UI that's provided here as well, you can do sort of what if analysis on these as well, where I can enter a modified value for any of these factors and then see how that changes my result over on that left-hand side as well. So also in the DSML area, we did a small update to the natural language queries to further enhance the date processing that we have. So now the natural language queries can identify exact dates. It will recognize a date range, for example, and also we added some more granular time periods. So we already had year, month, day. We also added quarter as well, and a few others. All right, so let me get to the demo of white labeling. All right, let me just hit a refresh, make sure I didn't get timed out. Okay. So here in this WebFOCUS environment, 9.2 environment, it's the exact same install that's available on eDelivery already. The white labeling configuration is in this management center area. So it's a new line item in here under the client administration. And when I first come into this, this is the view you're going to get where everything looks a little bit disabled. So all I have to do is click this checkbox to enable everything and be able to edit everything. I'm going to come back to this checkbox a little bit later because there is a secondary use for it. So once I've come to this area, I can now start making changes to the environment. So I can come in and choose a different favicon. I can choose a different logo, like to be representative of my company name. And like I said, the logos take effect across the hub, the WebFOCUS homepage, the reporting server UIs that come from the hub, like the data flow, and also Designer. And then I can also change my browser tab titles as well. So I'm going to put some new values in here. I'm just doing a quick copy and paste to speed this up a little. So now when I click save here, you're going to see some of these changes starting to take effect immediately. You see my new logo here. You see the browser tab title has changed. My favicon has updated as well. But no one else is seeing those changes yet. They're just for me for now. I can also change the color palette. So when I come in here, I can make some changes to the hex values here. Like there's a pinkish color there. Let's see, maybe a darker red there. I can click save while I'm playing around with this, sort of preview it. I'm starting to see some of those colors, but I still have a couple of those blue colors because I haven't changed those values. And here's where also I can download and upload the template. So I'm going to click a download and just show you what this template looks like. So here are all of our color variables and the hex values that they have currently. These are the ones that I've put into the UI currently. And like I said, I can send this off to maybe a corporate branding team or just a UI designer and say, hey, give me the correct colors for our company, the exact hex codes that are standard for our company. They make their changes, they send it back to me. Send back that text file. Now all I have to do is do an upload again. So I'm going to choose one that I already had saved. And I'm starting to see those colors already right away. So they've updated all the various line items here. And then when I click save, now I'm going to see that across all of my view. So I said that this was only happening for me so far. So I'm going to switch over to another window here. This is the exact same environment, but I'm logged in as a developer user instead. So even if I refresh here, I'm not going to see any of those branding changes yet. I'm still seeing IDEA WebFOCUS Hub. I'm still seeing all those blue colors. Nothing is fully taking effect yet for the white labeling. If I switch back to my admin and now I click publish, I get a success error message, and now everything is published to all of the users in this environment. So I'll come back to my developer, do a refresh, and now we can start seeing all the colors for sure, the favicon, the browser tab title, the logo. And what I said was that this takes effect across Designer as well. So even as my developer user, when I open up Designer, I'm getting the same favicon, I'm getting my updated title there, and all of my Designer UIs are updated with that color scheme as well. One thing to note is we did not change the theme of any actual content in Designer. So all of your pages, all of your reports and charts, those will still keep the same theme that you had set for them. If you had kept the default, it would be that Designer 2018 theme. Yeah, we didn't want to change, or we didn't want to automatically change the theme of any content at all, because everyone has spent time deciding what that should look like. So no updates to the content, just the tools itself and the WebFOCUS UIs itself. So if I switch back to my admin one more time, I talked about this checkbox and what this checkbox does. So this is a global on or off switch for white labeling. So if I've decided, I've done all these things, I've made it kind of orangish, maybe some dark colors. Maybe you're like us and you're going through a branding change or a name change for your company, and so you're not ready yet to really show everything, but you've tested this and you see it and it's there and you confirmed that everything is accurate. So you don't want to lose your work, but you just want to turn it off for now until everything is ready to be switched on. That's what this checkbox does. So I get a little warning message just saying, like, are you sure you want to turn this off? And if I click OK, everything's going to go back to the default WebFOCUS styling, but all of my values that I've set up have been saved and they are still there. All I have to do is click the checkbox back on and it will apply again. And this is also true for that developer user. So if I do a refresh over here, because I've turned it off globally, that developer user is also going to see the default IBI WebFOCUS branding. All right, so let me answer a couple of questions. Are there incremental licensing costs for using white labeling? No. So white labeling is included in your WebFOCUS edition. Whether you have the basic, standard, or enterprise edition, white labeling is included in that purchase. Okay. Does the white labeling download the images as well? It does not. It's just so the template is just the colors only. The images, since you're uploading them and storing them in the WebFOCUS environment, they do need to be uploaded in each environment. All right. Do you plan to bring back support for SUSE Enterprise Linux as it used to be? If you don't mind, can you bring that up through a, I want to follow up on that afterwards, after this presentation. So let's talk through either through a support ticket or through one of your representatives, and we can follow up on that afterwards. Any plans on NOQ in German? Yes, we are working on that. So it is English right now, but we are working on expanding that to multiple other languages. Okay. I do see one other question for Designer, but I think I'm going to let Alex take over for now, and we'll get to that question in a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, and hopefully the content that I show will help kind of provide a little bit of detail in regard to that as well. So yeah, thanks, Angie. Let me just start the slideshow. And all right. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So in Designer for 9.2, we also had a lot of changes across the board, both in terms of when you are authoring your content, so creating new charts or reports, or when you're assembling it into different types of content. So that includes pages, documents, and also portals. So one of the big changes that we made, and this is one of our big app items as well, one of the features that we had in InfoAssist and App Studio that we brought into Designer is filter expressions. So there are certain cases where you might want to create more complex combinations of filters that kind of relate to each other in very specific ways. So maybe you want like 2 filters or more to be combined, but not combined with certain other filters. I'll show you an example of this when I get to the demo portion. This would be something that you could use complex filter expressions for. This would allow you to select the data that appears in your charts or reports a lot more specifically and make sure that particular values are included or excluded. One of the things that we did when we brought it into Designer was try to modernize the interface, make it easier to use from like a user, like actual physically moving the filters around standpoint, but also make it a little bit easier to understand from a logical standpoint as well. We will show that as well in terms of how the group and or conditions are applied. But one thing that we want to make sure to avoid is that combinations of and or at the same level can be a little bit logically ambiguous. So we try to clarify that and make it so that these complex expressions, which can be a little bit logically difficult to like wrap your head around as you're creating them, could be a little bit easier to understand and therefore easier to create. So in this UI, all of the static filters that you create in a specific chart or report will be available in this tree, and you can organize them into different groups and change the connector within those groups. These are specific to each individual chart or report. So if you have multiple different charts or reports on a page, you could set different filter expressions for each one. And as I mentioned, automatically takes all the static filters that you've created. So if you want, you don't need to create an expression, but if you want to, then all of the static filters will be available there. Made a bunch of other changes to authored content as well, even beyond filtering. One of those, as mentioned earlier, is the ability to generate CSV or tab delimited content from Designer for reports only, since CSV and tab are kind of report tabular formats. So now you can generate those and download it directly from the browser. We had these options available as hold files previously, but now if you don't want to create that hold file, then you can just build the table directly in the Designer canvas and then download the CSV or tab delimited that way. And this is an area where there's some other formats that in the future we'll look into adding as well. Especially, we started with CSV and tab because those are used in a lot of third-party tools as kind of like raw data and stuff. So it'll make it easy to kind of bring your WebFOCUS data into different areas. In documents, we had some updates as well. The document mode was added in release 9.1 and continuing to enhance that as we are a lot of our other features. So one of the updates that we did was the text box object. So that's a good way to provide labels and other like text information in your documents. So that comes with a styling widget that's kind of like embedded into the Designer UI for a more streamlined and efficient use of space in the interface. And you can style each section of the text box separately, just like you would like, I guess, kind of a WYSIWYG text editor. We also provide some new output formats for documents from Designer. That includes browser-based output formats such as HTML or our enhanced IDA and document analytics output. And we also have the addition of PowerPoint in addition to our previous default, which was PDF. So PowerPoint would be another desktop-based option in addition to PDF, which we had previously. So we added both browser-based and desktop-based methods to consume those documents. And then finally, one that's like a little bit smaller, but also still like a nice update is that there might be scenarios where you have a page with multiple pie charts and a filter on that page might cause one or more of those to have values of 0 since it excludes all the data for those charts. So we made it possible to set the default or set the styling for 0 value pie charts and customize it so that you can match it a little bit better to your theme that you're using in the rest of your page. So that way it just gives you a little bit more control over the appearance of your content. In terms of authoring content, one of our other authored content types is multi-layer maps, and we continue to make updates to those as well. A couple of areas that we made some changes to include updates for how point and proportional symbol maps can be analyzed by kind of making them a little bit more high level view, a little bit more abstract. So one of those options that is new in 9.2 is binning. Binning kind of creates like a rectangular heat map type grid that makes it very easy to see hotspots and areas where there's like more data values in certain areas and less in other areas. So it makes it very easy to compare and contrast. In my opinion, I think it's like probably the easiest way to analyze high density point maps. Binning can be set either in the multi-layer map itself, if you set it on a map layer, or you can enable it for any point or proportional symbol map layer at runtime. So you can easily turn that on, and we also have the ability to adjust at runtime the size. So if you have data that's at a country level, you can make the bins bigger, or if it's at like a city level, you can make them smaller. So you can adjust that level of detail to get the information that's most useful for you. And then similarly, we have updates for heat maps, the density heat map, which we had previously and is another common way of showing the density and concentration of points in a map. So for heat maps, we made a few different updates. One of them is a set of preset color schemes that you can easily select from at runtime. So that makes it easy to customize your heat map so that it's easy to see against whatever base map you're using. We have a wide variety of options there. Also have the ability to add and apply heat maps to 3D maps. So if you are viewing your data in a 3D map, you can use the heat map feature as well. And we have I think like 4 or 5 different options to kind of customize the level of detail in the heat map. So you can adjust how many, I guess like how concentrated the points should be to reach like the maximum like heat level, I guess. How many points should be required to even show up in the heat map. And you can adjust a few other different like scaling and precision options to make sure that that heat map like represents the data in the way that you think is most accurate and most like the truest representation, since there's a lot of settings there that you can use to really customize that. And just like with the binning feature, the heat map option is available at runtime. You can easily toggle in between them, and as well as with the other clustering option, or just the basic point map. So you can see your proportional symbol or point map layers in numerous different like kind of abstract ways to get like a very high level understanding of how those points are arranged on the map. So yeah, both of those are available at runtime and can be customized and adjusted a little bit at runtime. Let's see. Oh yes, another feature that we added in 9.1 that we added enhancements for was filter effects. So that was a feature where you could apply filters to a map layer that didn't exclude or include the data, but actually like highlighted different different points or different geographic locations on the map layer. So previously in 9.1, that was done via filter controls based on fields. So you could select the field values that you wanted. Now in 9.2, you can also do that via visual selection using our typical selection tools, like drawing a rectangle, drawing a circle, etc. So that makes it easy to highlight the specific points that you want to be highlighted, rather than doing it via filter values that are also very useful, but also like less user controlled, I would say. So I think this is especially useful if you combine it with our bookmark feature for maps, where you could highlight specific areas and then bookmark that. So then when you come back to the map later, you can see that those areas are still highlighted. So it can kind of like be a reminder of what you were looking at previously. And then finally, another update that we made was support for duplicate city names within a single state or province by accounting for the county in the geographic hierarchy. So there may be like a lot of places where the same city name might occur multiple times within the same state, but be in different counties or some other kind of geographic administrative level. So we are accounting for that now. So just to help with those specific scenarios and make sure that those are differentiated properly. In addition to authored content, we also have a lot of updates for kind of assembled or combined content. Some of those are customization options for filters in assembled pages. So I think one of the nice ones is for drop-down lists and I believe the double list box as well. You can configure the pagination for those. So that means that you can set the number of values that will appear on each page and actually set a limit for how many values need to appear in that drop-down list before you even have to use pages. So that really gives you a lot of power to customize the sort of, I would say like navigability of those drop-down lists, so that if you want to kind of favor less scrolling, you can make the pages shorter, or if you want to favor less having to go through the different pages of the drop-down control, then you can increase the page size. And you can kind of customize that to how many values you know are going to be in that control, kind of as like a judgment call. We also made some customization updates for calendar controls as well. So in release 9.1, we added an updated predefined date range interface that made it very easy to select kind of basic dynamic date ranges. So like if you wanted to see information for the last 6 months or the past year, that was very easy to do. But at the same time, there might be certain pages where you just want to use the basic calendar control and select a static range of dates. So you now have the option to disable the predefined date ranges and show just the calendar if you want to for calendar control. And then also for calendar controls, you can configure the first day of the week setting from the page. So if you have a filter or a content that relies on kind of like week-based information, for example, like you want to see information for the past week, then if your week starts on Sunday, it would include a different set of days than if it starts on Monday. So that would be an example where you might want to change the first day of the week based on what your standards are, whether for your company or for yourself. And then, as Angie mentioned before, we made some updates to interactions and JavaScript as well. So for interactions, I think we made some really, really great enhancements to that. One of them is the ability to apply conditions to tasks. So what that means is that if you have filter controls in your page, you can actually make it so that the task executes differently for each filter control or based on the filter control selection. So if in your page someone selects, for example, North America, you could have the interaction show one particular piece of content, but then if they select Europe or EMEA, you could show a different piece of content. So that just gives a lot more customizability and kind of like a better user experience as well, since that way everyone is seeing the content that is most relevant to them. And that applies to any of our interactions. That includes like scheduling and all that stuff too. Additionally, interactions can now execute user-defined JavaScript functions. So you could use the JavaScript that is in the page, the like JavaScript editor that's part of the page, and you could create your own function, and then you could reference that function from an interaction. And that opens up just so many possibilities in terms of how users can interact with your page. We have our JavaScript API that we've had for a while. You can use to add buttons and new containers and that kind of thing to a page. So you could use that to really, in tandem with the interactions, which are very user-friendly, easy to set up, you could really add a lot of custom dynamic behavior to those pages. And then just to make that a little bit easier to use even, we now have JavaScript validation in our JavaScript editor. So if you are creating a function or using a method, whatever you're doing in that JavaScript area, if you're like me, you might, forget a parenthesis, like how many brackets do I have, whatever. There might be other syntactical errors that you might make just by accident as you're going through. The JavaScript validation will check for that and alert you to that so you can fix it before you go ahead and run your page. So save a lot of time on troubleshooting for that, so that the most basic errors and stuff like that will be caught quickly. And then finally, one change that will be kind of very simple to use and see, but I think will save a lot of time, is the ability to add charts and reports and HTML pages directly into a portal. Previously, you had to add these to a page. I think for any portal, not just the designer portals, but even the previous editions of the portal. So now you can add those directly to the portal and make it very easy to add your content. It will show up just as if it were a page, and it will use the same kind of navigation. If it's like the top bar, it will show up in the dropdown. If it's the side navigation, it'll show up on that side panel. And also, you can save those directly to the portal as well, or you can use the shortcut, which we've also made easier to apply. You can create the shortcuts directly in the portal to link to a page or to a content item, and then you can reuse that in multiple portals so that if you update the original, it will show up everywhere. It's kind of like a best practice in certain cases for portals when you have multiple different content items. So, so I can either show the demo now or answer some questions first and then get into it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions we can probably address now.
Sure.
One that came in was for the PowerPoint format, are the charts just images inside of that, or are they native charts?
The charts are images, yeah. So for PowerPoint and some of our other ones, I think PDF as well, and Excel, we generate the charts as like a PNG image, and it kind of like shows up within whatever the frame size that you specify for it.
And then the next one was for conditional styling that depends on the total values of across columns. Is that possible in the designer UI?
I would have to take another look. I want to say, I think so. But I guess it would depend on like what exactly, if there's like specific aggregations and stuff that you want to use in that condition. I'm trying to remember if we have control for that.
So what I'm going to suggest is if you can open up that through a case with support, we can definitely follow up on that and get your exact scenario and look at your exact code and follow up on an answer with that one. Let's see. I think that might be it for now. I think go ahead and do the demo and we'll answer a couple more after the demo as well.
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's see here. All right. Okay, so I'll start with the filter expression feature that I mentioned previously. So here's a scenario where I think you might run into where filter expressions would be very useful. Here you can see I've created multiple filters for 2 different fields, and you can see also probably notice that there's no data showing up right now. And that's because I created 2 filters that kind of contradict each other. Like I have this one for product category of computers and another one for product category of televisions. Since there's no individual record that matches both of those scenarios, and multiple filters are connected via and by default, then as a result, we get no data. And the same occurs for the country field. Since I've selected 2 different countries and created them in different filters, they kind of contradict each other. So it results in no data being generated. But I can use the filter expression editor, which is available via this filter menu. And it shows automatically a list of all of my static filters. And I can group those and connect them with OR conditions to make it so that it's possible to show them. So I'm going to start by adding a group. And here it creates an empty group. And I'm going to change it to an OR group. You can see the connector inside the group changed here to indicate that all of the filters within that group will be connected via OR. And then we have a pretty simple drag and drop behavior. I can just drop these right in. I can also drop it like at the end if I want to. So now that everything's in the group, I can create subgroups that kind of connect these filters together. Because what I want to do is have a combination of televisions, perhaps in Korea, and then computers in Japan. I can connect these together by just dropping them on top of each other. And I want this group to represent the scenario where both of these are true. And then this higher level group will select for values where either of these 2 subgroups is true. So right now, my filter is going to show televisions in Korea, sorry, and then computers in Japan. So now when I apply this, you'll see that my filter conditions have been applied, and now I see data again because I've created like a complex expression to kind of represent the information I'm selecting for. So that will allow you, if you have combinations of fields that kind of cancel each other out, or if you want to kind of like extend a selection, like for example, if I wanted to do Europe plus Canada and Mexico, I could do that as well. So that makes it easy to kind of like select extra values and also avoid or kind of like easily address scenarios where you might want to select multiple values that kind of contradict each other. So yeah, that's filter expressions. And then I also wanted to show how easy it is to use the new content within a portal. So here is my portal here. You guys may know it's like kind of a folder structure. And here I've got multiple subpages. And here's an example. Oops, I got some subfolders in here as well. So in past releases, you could always add like a page to these portals, and then you could put content in the pages. But now what we have the option to do is here you can see I've got multiple content items directly in the portal folder. And here I've got a folder that has both a page and a single content item. So here's what that looks like. Here's an example of a page that I have. And I can also navigate to multiple different subpages within the portal structure. And so here's an example of a page that I have. I'll let that load real quick. But you can see I've got like both a page, and then here's my like single content item that I've got within that same folder. And here is a single content item within a single page. This is the first time I'm running this today, so it's not like cached or anything. It might take a sec to load, but you can see here that the single content item kind of like fills the space in the portal. So you can drop it right in. You don't need to do any like special, positioning or formatting or anything. So if you don't really need that extra like page behavior, like the filter bar and that type of stuff, or containers and that kind of thing, you can just drop the content right in there. And here I've got like multiple content items directly within a folder. So yeah, very easy to use and very useful new option.
Great. All right. Yeah, so keep submitting your questions, guys. There's one I'm going to address kind of broadly regarding the gap between the legacy tools and Designer. So between InfoAssist App Studio and then Designer. So there is still a gap there. We are working very, very hard to fill that gap. So we are hoping by our 9.3 release to have, I'll call it a majority of that gap filled. It may not be 100% completely closed, but we're working hard to get a majority of that. So stay tuned. We should have more updates. Not this release 9.2, but our next one. We should have more updates then.
Yeah, and I would point out that specifically InfoAssist, I feel like we are very close. App Studio, as you guys probably know, has like a lot of features in it, both in the HTML canvas and also different report types. So, but yeah, kind of.
I should also mention through the support org, we're able to distribute a document that actually shows like a table showing our gap in the items across like what's in InfoAssist now that isn't yet available in Designer. So we're working on updating that with the 9.2 updates that we have. So maybe in the next like week or two, if you go through support and request that, we can send that updated version to you as well. Any other questions coming in?
All right, guys. Any questions? Any additional questions for Alex or Angie? We still have a few minutes, so if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and submit them. In the meantime, just wanted to remind you guys, again, we did record the session. So in about 24 hours, this recording will be available to you guys. I will send it out to you for one. You will also be able to find it on the ibi.com website under the resource section, and it will also be posted to our new YouTube channel. So those will be several places that you can access the recording, as well as I will send you a copy. I will also include a copy of the presentations that Alex and Angie shared today, so you'll have a copy of those. And anything else I'm missing? If you guys have any additional questions, again, we still have some time. Feel free to submit those. If not, I understand if you have to go. We will, is that a question, Angie?
Yeah, so there was a question that came in, if we integrate with Bootstrap within Designer at all to provide interactive user prompt forms. So Alex, feel free to expand on this, but I think with the combination of interactions and custom JavaScript, we may be able to accomplish some of that without needing the Bootstrap extra.
Yeah, we could take a look also, like it might depend on, different output or something might facilitate that, depends.
Great, thank you guys. Any last minute questions?
While we're waiting, I just want to say thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited to see the feedback and the excitement for this 9.2 release. So keep sending your questions and your feedback. We're happy to hear it.
Awesome, thanks, Angie. I did throw the link to the evaluation form in the chat, guys. Before you leave, if you wouldn't mind just clicking on that, giving us a few minutes of your time to fill out the evaluation form. Again, your feedback is greatly appreciated. If there are no further questions, I'll give you some time back to your day. Again, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Angie. Great presentations today. Yep. Oh, Angie, there is one more. Sorry, guys. One more question.
Yeah, let me see. What is the roadmap of Hyperstage? Yeah, we are working on that actively because we know, for anyone not familiar, Hyperstage is our ultra fast data access that we have. So we're working on that for sure, making sure that our roadmap in the future has that functionality available to you. And yeah, stay tuned.
All right, perfect. All right, guys. Well, like I said, I will give you some time back to your day. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next month in May for our May virtuals. And we are excited to introduce the topics for May. So you'll see that coming soon. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.